this psychosocial support program that is meant to assist our students in secondary school from Form 1 to Form 4 so that they can be able to focus effectively on their studies, so that they can be able to improve, and so that they can be able to transit to higher institutions of learning. My name is Abraham Mutuol. I am a motivational speaker, I'm a writer, I'm a trainer, and I was a teacher in a secondary school for 12 years teaching chemistry and biology. So I have a wealth of experience in the field of teaching, field of education. I know what it takes for students to be able to do well in the academics. Today, the topic of my presentation is preparing for exams. Because even if you are a student in Form 1, a student in Form 2, Form 3 or Form 4, ultimately you are going to do exams. Either you are going to do your CATs, you are going to do maybe an end-term exam, mocks, pre-mock, post-mock, or if you are in Form 4, you are preparing to do your national exams. So preparation for exams is so critical, is so important, because when you prepare well for exams, you can actually be able to use that preparation to be able to do well. So in this topic, in this presentation, I will be taking you through every step, every strategy, every process that you need to use so that you can be able to take control of your studies, control of your education in secondary school, and also be able to do well in national exams. There is a famous writer by the name William Ward, and this is what he says. He says, a recipe for success is you study while others are sleeping, you walk while others are laughing, you prepare while others are playing, and you dream while others are wishing. So, the first item I want to discuss is how to finish strong. Finishing strong. Because in the North Rift region, all of us are aware that we produce international athletes who are breaking records. Athletes who are breaking records in marathons, long distance races, and also middle distance races. You will agree with me that even these athletes who are breaking records, they are winning races internationally. Athletes in the field, it is not the athlete who starts the race as number one that is going to win, but it is the athlete who has the finishing kick. At the sound of the bell, they unleash all their energy and they run at the top speed, and that is when they are going to win. So even you as a student, you may not have done well in the past. You may not have done well in Form 1 or Form 2 or Form 3. But if you are in Form 4, this is the time to unleash your finishing kick. This is the time to finish strong. This is the time to upgrade the way you work, and you work so hard so that you can be able to finish strong. It is not how you start, but it is about how you finish. So let's look at some of the tips that you need to use so that you can be able to finish strong. Number one is recommit to your goal. We have discussed and we have said that you need to have a variety of goals that you aspire. Maybe you are aiming to get a straight A in maths in KCSE, straight A in English. You are aiming to have an overall mean grade of, let's say, B+, A-, or a straight A. So for you to be able to finish strong, you need to recommit to the goals that you are set. If you had set a goal of getting a straight A, this is the time in which you need to do everything within your power so that you can be able to get that straight A. In terms of the way you manage your time in school, in terms of the way you engage in group discussion, you do assignment, you do homework, you write a composition every day, you consult your teachers, become active in class when teachers are teaching. Those are the things that you need to do. The processes that ultimately are going to give you the results. So recommit to your goal. If it is getting A in maths, can you work hard in mathematics? Getting A in English, can you work hard in English? Can you work hard in all the subjects across the board? Another thing you also need to do so that you can finish strong is to make your action steps effort driven. not outcome driven. You know the mistake that most of the students commit, they make, and then they don't do well, is that they spend most of their time in school focusing on what the results will turn out to be. You are in Form 4, maybe 2 months or 3 months to KCSE. You are simply focusing all your energies on the outcome of the KCSE. You're asking yourself, will I get a B? Will I get a C? Will I get an A? So you focus so much until you forget to do the most important things in the school, and that is to revise, and that is to work hard, and that is to manage your time. So we are telling you, your action steps must be effort driven, not outcome driven. Focus on effort. Focus on working hard. Focus on managing your time. Focus on consoling your teachers. And if you can be able to do all those processes, they will automatically give you the results that you are aiming for. Another thing you can also be able to do so that you can finish strong is to identify what you need to stop doing. You know, we've been focusing so much. We've been focusing so much, discussing so much the things that you need to do, so that you can be able to do well. But sometimes you can also be able to create what we call a personal boundary. And as you're creating this personal boundary, you are defining in precise terms the things that you are not going to do in the school. As much as you have a list of the things that you'll be doing, you should also come up with a list of the things that you are not going to do. Like, for example, making noise in class, being in display, maybe engaging in activities that are not beneficial to the school and it's not also beneficial to you, like maybe drinking alcohol, smoking. Those activities that may disorient you, may distract you, and may be able to prevent you from getting your goal. So we are also telling you, if you have to be smart and you have to finish strong, then you also need to define what you are not going to do. And once you have a list of the things you are not going to do, then you can focus on doing the things that you need to do so that you get the results that you deserve. And then lastly, on finishing strong, is identify what you need to continue doing. Identify the processes that you need to continue doing. Those processes that will give you the results. Things like waking up at 4 in the morning, doing morning preps, maybe 2 subjects, revising 2 subjects in the morning before you go for morning tea, and then normal lessons in the course of the day. In the evening, you can extend your preps up to 11 at night, engaging in group discussion, going to the field, doing exercise. Those are the things that you need to do, including even being active in class when the teacher is teaching, being attentive and alert in class when the teacher is teaching, and also consulting your teachers on a daily basis on a variety of topics which maybe they still give you a challenge. So those are the things that you need to continue doing, things that will give you results, productive activities that will add value to your life. So let's look at how to prepare well for exams. Now, and I've said, preparation for exams does not even mean that it is only the Form 4s who are supposed only to prepare for exams. Even if you are in Form 1, this is the time in which you need also to begin preparing for exams. You are in Form 2, Form 3, you'll be doing a lot of exams before your national KCSE exam. So preparation for exams is so critical, is so important, and I'm urging every student in a secondary school to be able to have the techniques, the tips that they need to be able to use so that they can be able to prepare for exams. So these are the things you need to do as you prepare for exams. Number 1 is give yourself enough time to study. Give yourself enough time to study. The mistake most of the students are making is that they wait until it is too late. They wait until the teachers say that there is an exam next week, there is a cut next week, so they begin cramming for that cut. They begin cramming for the end term exam, and it will be too late, and it cannot be able to benefit you. And you realize that every time you're waiting until it is too late so that you can be able to cram, you will not be able to do well. So the advice I'm giving you is, what you need simply to do is, the moment a new term begins, the first day, the first week, is that you begin serious revision. The first day, first week of the term, begin revising, and you revise in small bits throughout the term, because you realize that your brain cannot take all the information at once, at the same time. So the brain will actually be storing information in small bits. So revise continuously in small bits throughout the term, and that is when you can be able to understand and you can be able to prepare well for exams. Another thing you can also be able to do in preparation for exams is to organize your study space. Your study space in this case is maybe your table, on top of your locker. That is your area of studying. You don't need to have a lot of items that are scattered all over your table. You need to arrange your items in a systematic order, your file containing revision materials, your calculator, your pens, arrange them in a systematic order so that you can become organized. Because you know, when you become organized physically, you will also become organized mentally. Another way in which you can also be able to prepare for exams is to use flowcharts and diagrams. You can prepare for this is another technique of revising. You can use flowcharts and diagrams. And what are these flowcharts and diagrams? Sometimes it is advisable for you, if you need to revise a topic until you've completely understood the topic, then sometimes you need to use maybe a flowchart. What happens in a flowchart is that you can be able to condense the whole topic in one page in form of a flowchart. So that as you approach your exams, these topics that you've condensed in one page in form of flowcharts can actually be able to assist you to internalize and conceptualize the material, and then you can be able to answer your exams. Maybe you can even consult your teachers on the ways and means you can use so that you can be able to construct these flowcharts and diagrams. Another way to prepare for exams is to practice on past papers. Practice on past papers. Because they say practice makes perfect. The more practice, the more you prepare yourself for exams. And you see, what happens is that most of these past paper mocks from various counties are always set by national examiners. And you see, if you expose yourself answering questions in past papers, then you realize that it gives you enough preparation to do national exams. Because what you need to do, to understand, is that even the questions that you are going to encounter in KCSE are the same questions that are set in mocks, in pre-mocks, in the various counties, in the various schools. And the more you expose yourself to them, you practice on these past papers every day. You practice mathematics every day, chemistry every day, physics every day. It gives you enough preparation, and that is when you can be able to do well in exams. Another way to prepare for exams is to explain your answers to others. Explain your answers to others. This is normally what you do in a group discussion, because you realize that a group discussion is a good forum that gives you the opportunity to explain what you know to your colleagues. Like, for example, you could be explaining a concept in a particular topic to your colleagues. And the more you explain this concept, the more it even benefits you. Because anything that you explain to your colleagues, you end up understanding it more, you end up even storing it in your brain for a longer time, and you can be able to use it in an exam. So when you try to explain something to your colleagues, you end up understanding it more, and it is put in your brain permanently, and you can be able to recall it during exams. So make use of group discussions, and once you attend a group discussion, ensure that you participate actively in that group discussion. Another way to prepare for exams is to organize your study group. You need to have study groups in various subjects. Have a study group for mathematics, a study group for chemistry, a study group for agriculture, a study group for all the subjects. And then at least in every day, ensure that you have attended a discussion. Attend a discussion in the various subjects at least once in a day, so that you make it as an habit. It's a very good habit that really prepares you for exams. Another way to prepare for exams is to take regular breaks, because we don't expect you to sit down for 3 hours just revising continuously, because you realize that your brain also requires change. Your brain requires change. They normally say change is the only constant thing in the world. So my advice is, if you are revising a subject, you can even revise it for 45 minutes, or you can revise it for 1 hour, and then you have a break of 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Maybe you can go out, you can have fresh air for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can come back and you can be able to continue. Another way to prepare for exams is to plan your exam day. Plan the day of your exams in advance. Like for example, if you're having an exam tomorrow, maybe a maths paper tomorrow, maths paper 1 or maths paper 2, you prepare it today. Wanasemanga safari ya kesho inaanza leo. Safari ya kesho inaanza leo. So even if you are having an exam tomorrow, prepare it today. Like for example, if it's a maths exam, ensure that every item that you need in that exam, you have it in advance, a calculator, a log table, every material that you require. So you plan in advance. And also, another way to prepare for exams is to drink plenty of water. You need to drink plenty of water. And the advantage of drinking plenty of water is that because when you are revising, your brain is consuming a lot of energy. 30% of the total amount of energy in the body will be consumed by your brain as you are revising. So when the brain is consuming this energy, a lot of metabolism is taking place in the body. And you see, one of the byproducts of metabolism is the release of water in form of sweat. So as you are revising a lot, you are losing water in form of sweat. So it is advisable to replenish this water that is being lost by drinking plenty of water. And you see, if you don't drink water as you are revising, you will become dehydrated, and then you become confused, and then you lose a lot of, and then your memory is going to be impaired. So we are advising you, as you revise, ensure you are drinking a lot of water. I want to give you a quote from General Colin Powell, who was the first African American to serve as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S. Defense Forces. And this is what General Colin Powell says. General Colin Powell says, there is no secret to success. It is just the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. Sometimes I tell people there is nothing called failure. Even personally, failure does not, I don't have the word failure in my own vocabulary. What I have are lessons to be learned. There is nothing called failing. Sometimes you may not do well, and if you don't do well, you learn a lesson so that next time you come out of it strongly. The third thing I want to discuss is how to remain calm and relaxed during an exam. How to remain calm and relaxed during an exam. I want to, just to make it clear, that sometimes you find a student has revised a lot, has engaged in a group discussion, has consulted teachers, and all the preparation. But you realize that this student can lose everything inside this. This student can easily lose everything inside the exam room. So that you may have done so much preparation, so much revision, but you lose inside the exam room. So what happens inside the exam room is so important, is so critical, because it also goes a long way in ensuring that you're going to do well. So that is why it is imperative, it is important, it is advisable that you are always calm, you are always relaxed during an exam. When you are doing an exam, you become calm and relaxed so that you can be able to recall everything that you had revised. And these are the things you need to do so that you remain calm and relaxed during an exam. Number one is you pace yourself. You pace yourself. What is pacing yourself? Pacing yourself means you begin revising early. You begin revising early. And this is what I've said previously. At the beginning of the term, you begin serious revision. and you revise continuously by pacing yourself, so that as you are approaching exams, that is when you can increase the pace of revision. You can increase the pace of revision. Another way to remain calm and relaxed during an exam is to exercise. Exercise removes excess energy in the body. You know, you can have excess energy and then it can cause stress to you. So during the duration of the exam, it is also advisable for you to have time to go to the field and play in the field. Play volleyball, play football, you can run, you can jog, and so that when you do that, the excess energy that may cause a lot of stress, you release it, and then you become fresh, you become alert, and then you can be able to concentrate on exams. Another way to prepare for exams is to prepare everything. To prepare everything. What it means is that, like for example, if tomorrow you are doing a maths paper, maybe paper 1 or paper 2, the night before the exam, you need to have everything required in that exam ready the night before the exam. You need to have the calculator ready, you need to have the log table ready, you need to have the pens ready, you need to have the pencils ready, you need to have everything that you require in that exam ready, so that the morning of the exam you are relaxed. You know, if you don't have these things ready, then it means 10 minutes before an exam, you're still running up and down looking for a calculator, you're still running from this class to another class, trying to borrow maybe a log table, and then that is going to confuse and disorient you. So the night before the exam, ensure you have everything required for the exam ready, so that when you wake up, you just prepare yourself and you move to the exam room with all the materials that you need. Another way to remain calm and relaxed during an exam is to get into the exam room at least 10 minutes before the exam. You get into the exam room at least 10 minutes before the exam. I remember one time when I was in secondary school, there is a student who came to the exam room, national exams, KCSE. He came to the exam room 10 minutes late. And you see, if you come to the exam room 10 minutes late, you will come, you are panicking, you are sweating, you are confused, you run out of time, and you may not be able to do well. So the advantage of being in the exam room 10 minutes before the start of the exam is that you use these 10 minutes to relax, to breathe in, and to remove the stress, and also to try and recall and remember everything that you have been revising. So it is advisable to come to the exam room 10 minutes earlier. Another way is to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. I think I've been talking about this self-belief, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody is going to believe in you. So believe in yourself, believe in your potential, believe that you are going to do well, believe that you are going to pass this exam, so that even as you are sitting in that exam room doing this maths paper, you're even smiling. You are doing this mathematics and you are smiling, you are telling yourself, I'm going to pass, you're doing a particular question and you are smiling. So it actually gives you the motivation, it is inspiring you, it gives you the confidence, and ultimately you are going to do well. There is a famous writer by the name Robert Collier, and this is what he says. He says success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in, day out. Let me repeat. Sam Collier says success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in, day out. What does he mean? What does he mean? It simply means that this revision that you do every day, teacher consultation you are doing every day, exercise you are doing every day, mathematics that you are doing 10 questions every day, writing a composition every day, these are the small efforts that you need to repeat consistently every day, and it's going to give you the ultimate result that you are looking for. The fourth item I want to discuss is how to answer difficult questions in an exam. How do you answer how can you answer difficult questions in an exam? Because most students all over this country, when they encounter a very difficult question, most of them, they leave blank spaces. And you see, the worst thing you can be able to do in an exam room is to leave a blank space. You are not supposed to leave a blank space. At least you need to write something. But there is a way in which you can be able to tackle those questions that you may find difficult. So what are the steps? What are the strategies that you need to use so that you can be able to deal with questions that you may find difficult in an exam? I'm going to discuss, so method one, the first method that you need to use is, method one is answering short answer questions. Tackling short answer questions that you may find difficult. How do you answer short answer questions that you may find difficult? The first thing you need to do is you circle or underline the keywords in the question. One of the ways in which you can deal effectively with questions that you find difficult is to underline the keywords in the question. Like, for example, the question is list 5 characteristics. So the keywords in this case could be the word list and then 5 characteristics. So those are the keywords. So that as you are even trying to provide the relevant information in that question, you will know exactly, even at the back of your mind, that this question really requires me to provide this kind of information, so that you don't go out of the topic, out of what the question is asking. So always underline or use circle those keywords in the question. The second method, the second tip you need to use, strategy you need to use in answering difficult questions, these short answer questions that are difficult. The second thing you need to do is answer the easy questions first. I think I've been talking about this one for a longer time. When you are given a question paper, the first thing you need to do is to mark those questions that you find easy. Mark those questions that you find easy. And once you mark those questions that you find easy, then you start doing those questions. And as you do these questions that you find easy, then you realize that your confidence is going to build up, your morale is going to build up, and then even later on when you finish with the easy questions, as you'll be tackling those questions that you may find challenging, some of the information that you are using in tackling the easy questions, you may later on use it when you are tackling those questions that you find challenging. Number 3 is answer from your teacher's point of view. Once you encounter a question that you find difficult, of course, this question that you find difficult may have come from an area that was taught by the teacher in the classroom. And maybe you are listening to the teaching by the teacher. So when you find these questions that is difficult, what happens is that you try to answer that question from the way the teacher was teaching that question, by using the explanation that the teacher used in the classroom, using the teacher's explanation. Number 4 is use the margins. You know when you have the question paper, you have the space at the margins of the question paper. Like, for example, if you are doing mathematics, and then of course you have the answer sheet. You have the answer sheet where you are supposed to write your answers. But when you encounter a question that you find difficult, sometimes you can do some writings at the margins of the question paper to try and see whether you can come up with a formula to try and answer the question. So you can first of all do your working at the margins, and then you can later on transfer the information to the answer sheet. Rephrase your question. Sometimes you read a question and I think you don't understand the question. You try to read it, but you don't understand it. So what you are advised is you can try to, what you can do is you can try
to rephrase that question in your own words. Put that question in your own words, in the way you can understand. But even as you're putting this question in your own words, try as much as possible not to lose the true meaning of what the examiner was asking. Don't lose the real question that the teacher or the examiner was asking. So use your own words to rephrase the question, but the meaning of the information that was being asked in that question, you don't need to lose it. And another way in which also you can be able to answer the difficult question is to prepare well during your study. We have said that preparation is everything. If you prepare well, you revise, you consult your teachers, group discussion, you go through a topic 7 times using different strategies of revision, then you realize that you'll be preparing yourself, and most of the questions that you're going to encounter in an exam will not be difficult, will just be easy. So one of the ways of dealing with difficult questions is to prepare in advance, is to do a lot of hard work, a lot of revision, a lot of teacher consultation, a lot of group discussion, so that you make some of these. So the more you understand a concept, the more you understand topics, then you realize that most of the questions that you're going to encounter in exam room will not be difficult, will just be easy. There is also another method that you can use, that is method 2. Method 2 that you can use in answering difficult questions. But this one now is when you are answering essay questions. When you are answering difficult essay questions. Number 1, how do you answer difficult essay questions? Number 1 is listen to all instructions. Ensure you pay attention when the teacher is giving the last minute instructions. Like for example, if you are in Form 4 and you are approaching KCSE, then you realize that the last 2 months or 1 month to KCSE, the teachers will be giving you tips of how to approach some of these essay questions. Maybe essay questions in literature, essay questions in Fasihi, in Kiswahili, essay questions in agriculture, in biology, in history, in geography. The teacher will be giving you some of the tips that you need to use so that you can be able to deal with those essay questions. So when the teacher is giving these tips, always pay attention. And even sometimes you can even go further and consult this teacher on the best method that you can be able to use in answering essay questions. Another way to answer difficult essay questions is to read the question. Is to read the question. Sometimes, maybe you find the question is easy because maybe you read it once and you never understood it. So sometimes you need to read the question, you read it again, maybe even 3 times as you underline the keywords until you've understood exactly what the question is asking before you can be able to proceed and answer. Number 3 is estimate the time that you need to allocate to every question, to every essay question. Like for example, if you have 2 hours, if the question paper, if that paper requires you to do that paper for 2 hours, and let's say you have 8 essay questions, what you need to do is that you can divide the 2 hours by the 8 questions, so that you can allocate each question enough time. Maybe 20 minutes, you can decide that you'll be tackling each essay question by using around 20 minutes, so that at least you can be able to exhaust the material that you need to write in that essay question. Another way of answering difficult essay questions, is to avoid getting stuck. You see, sometimes you may be answering a question, but you run out of material, you run out of content, you run out of answers that you can use to answer this question. And then most of the time, most of the students, when they get stuck, they waste a lot of time in just one question. And you still have another 6 questions, another 10 questions to answer, another 15 questions, but you're getting stuck and wasting a lot of time in just a single question. So it is advisable that when you find yourself getting stuck, just move on to the next questions. And if you have enough time at the end, you can come back and then you can try to redo the question that you had left. And another way is to rephrase the question to begin your answer. Especially this is applicable most of the time when you're answering essay questions. So to come up with the central point of your essay, you rephrase the question as a statement. This will give you the starting point of your essay. For example, if you get a question in a history paper 2, which says, maybe the question in history paper 2 says, discuss the factors that led to the rapid industrialization of China. You find that is an essay question. Discuss the factors that led to the rapid industrialization of China. How do you begin answering that question? How do you begin the first statement of answering this question? This is a question. You begin your essay by writing, you can begin that essay by writing, the factors that led to the rapid industrialization of China include, and then you continue. That's how to start an essay question. The factors that led to the rapid industrialization of China include, and then you start listing those points and discussing those points. Another way also to answer a difficult question is to plan your essay before you begin. You plan your essay before you begin. Maybe, for example, if it's an history paper 2, and maybe the question was discuss the fact, that is discuss, let's say, discuss the factors that led to agrarian revolution. Discuss the factors that led to agrarian revolution. Before you can be able to discuss, you can have an outline of the points that you are going to use to discuss. You can write it that maybe even at the margins of your question paper. At the margins of the question paper. So you list those factors, around 10 factors. And then once you've listed those 10 factors, now you begin discussing those 10 factors. And it is also advisable that as you are discussing these 10 factors, always discuss 1 point per paragraph. 1 point per paragraph. And then that will enable you to optimize your marks. So that if the question has 20 marks, you can at least get 18 out of 20, 19 out of 20, or even 20 out of 20. And you would have optimized on your marks. Another way to answer difficult essay questions is to keep your answer simple and concise. How do you keep your answer simple and concise? What it means is that most of these essay questions requires you to stay on point. You don't digress and discuss other things that were not asked. Like for example, if it is a literature question and then this literature question is asking, maybe discuss the theme, discuss the character, discuss the character of a certain character in the novel, discuss the character, discuss character X. So you focus only on discussing this character. In the middle of this discussing this character, you are not supposed to bring in the themes because you are not asked to give the themes. You are not asked to discuss the themes. You are only asked to discuss the character. So you stay on point by only discussing the character, and that is when you can be able to get a marks. So you are not supposed to digress and provide information which may not be relevant. So now let's look at common exam mistakes. Common exam mistakes and how to avoid them. Common exam mistakes and how to avoid them. You know, sometimes you may not do well in an exam because you are committing some of the simple exam mistakes which you can easily avoid. And one of the common exam mistakes is not reading the question properly. Not reading the question properly. Because you are told that the human brain has the habit of seeing what they want to see. A human brain has the habit of seeing what they want to see, especially inside an exam room where the pressure is so high. So sometimes, if you don't read the question properly, you may end up imagining the question is asking something that it is not asking. Like for example, there is a story I always like giving. well, you know, in Insha, there is this Insha called Insham Dogeso. Insham Dogeso. And you see, in Insham Dogeso, they simply start a statement, and then the student is supposed to continue with that statement to give a story based on the statement that was started. And then we are told there was a student who was writing Insham Dogeso, and the statement ilikuwa imeanza ati nilipofika nyumbani nikapata mamangu amepikwa na butwa. And then this student was supposed to continue. And you can imagine the way this student continued. The student akaendelea akaandika akasema nikakimbia mpaka kwa butwa. Nikamuuliza butwa, mbona umepika mamangu? So you see, that student was completely lost because he never understood the meaning of even the word butwa. And he was completely lost, and he was now going to provide information that was not relevant, information that was not asked, and he was completely out of the topic, and he was going to lose a lot of marks. He was in fact going to lose marks. So that is why it is important, first of all, to read the question, ensure that you've understood the question before you proceed to give the information that is required in that question. Another common exam mistake is writing the essay you want to write, not the one that has been set. Sometimes maybe you are dealing with an essay question, and then maybe you didn't read it properly, and then you start imagining that this essay question is requiring me to do the ABCD, but it is requiring you to do something else, and then you also go out of the topic. Another common exam mistake is not writing an essay plan. You see, I've told you previously that if you are dealing with an essay question, before you proceed, you are supposed to outline. You need to list the points that you are going to use to discuss the essay. You list around 10 points, and then once you've listed the 10 points, you can now use those 10 points to discuss in form of paragraphs. So the mistake that you can easily make is that when you are answering an essay question and then you did not write an essay plan, it means that in the middle of you writing that essay, you become confused, and then you become bringing in information that is not relevant, and then you end up losing marks. So ensure you are always writing an essay plan and listing the points that you are going to use in discussing that essay. Another common exam mistake which you are not supposed to commit is leaving the easiest questions last. Leaving the easiest questions last. Remember, I've emphasized from the beginning that when you are given the question paper, you are supposed to write your index number, you write your name, you read the instructions, and then you spend maybe the first 2 minutes or 3 minutes to mark the questions that you find easy. And then you begin doing the easy questions first before you begin, and later on you can be able to do the questions that you may find challenging. So one of the mistakes that you can easily make in an exam room is to challenging and difficult questions, and then you run out of time, and then you have no time to deal with the easy questions. That's a big mistake, because it's better, like for example, if it is a paper of 100 marks, and you find that the easy questions accounts to around 60 marks. So deal with these 60 marks first, and then you have the 60 marks in your pocket, and then you can now look for another 20 marks in these challenging questions, and then your total can be around 80%, and you get your straight A. Another common exam mistake is running out of time. Remember, I've told you time is critical. Time is so important. You are not supposed to run out of time inside an exam room. And that is why if you go to an exam room and the paper you are supposed to do that paper for 2 hours, ensure you manage your time inside the exam room, so that at least you can finish all the questions and you still have a spare of around 5 minutes or 10 minutes so that you can be able to do corrections. So ensure that you don't run out of time inside exam room. Another common exam mistake is leaving exam room early. This is what some students, in fact majority of them, they make. You find the paper is 2 hours, and then you finish that paper in 1.5 hours, and then you start marching out when you still have a spare 30 minutes remaining. 30 minutes are remaining and you're just marching out. You have handed over your answer sheet and then you are marching out. Remember, even the examiner knew that this paper is supposed to take 2 hours. It was not supposed to take 1.5 hours. There is a reason why this paper is supposed to take 2 hours. So if you finish in 1.5 hours, there is a mistake you have made, and you cannot be able to optimize on your marks. You know, sometimes even if you handed over your answer sheet early, maybe with 15 minutes remaining, 20 minutes remaining, you've handed out your answer sheet, and then sometimes when you reach out, you have gone out of the exam room, and then an information comes to your mind which you should have used to answer a particular question, but it will be too late because already you would have handed in your answer sheet. So ensure that if the paper is 2 hours, you remain in that exam room for 2 hours. If the paper is 2.5 hours, remain in that exam room answering questions for 2.5 hours so that you can be able to optimize on your marks. Because you see, in an exam room, the most important thing is to try and optimize. If it is possible for you to get 100%, get 100%. If it is possible for you to get 95%, get a 95%. If it is possible for you to get 80%, get that 80%. So the idea inside an exam room is to work hard, be so alert, and ensure that you optimize on your marks so that you can get the highest possible marks in that paper. Another common exam mistake that students make is poor spelling and grammar. Poor spelling and grammar. You see, some of the marking schemes have an allowance, have marks, an allowance of marks that for good spelling and good grammar. But you see, if you are writing using poor grammar, poor spelling, you are losing marks. So that is why it's also good to, as you are revising, also ensure that you upgrade your capacity to write well. Your spelling, your grammar should be good, so that you use good grammar in answering questions. So let's look at tips for answering, tips for preparing for exams. Let's look at tips for preparing for exams. The night before exam. What are you supposed to do the night before exam? First of all, the night before exam, you should be aware of the paper that you are going to do in the morning, so that you revise for that paper that you are going to do. Because if you are doing chemistry paper 1 in the morning, then at night you should be preparing for that chemistry paper 1 in terms of having all the material required and also trying to revise for that chemistry paper 1. Inside the exam room, what are you supposed to do if you are inside the exam room? In the exam room, when you are given the question paper, once you are inside the exam room and you are given the question paper, you are advised to read information carefully. You write your name, your index number, and you read instructions. You read instructions. And as you are reading these instructions, you can also be asking yourself whether they are compulsory questions, because sometimes you can lose marks by answering the wrong question. Also inside the exam room, before you begin, you are also required to work out your timing. You divide your time according to the number of questions to be answered, because you need to allocate appropriate amount of time to each question inside each question that has been set. And then inside the exam room again, you are also advised to read questions carefully. And one of the techniques of reading questions carefully, I told you, is you underline the keywords. You underline the keywords in the question. And once you are underlining the keywords in the question, those keywords will be leading you and narrowing your focus so that you can be able to provide relevant information in the question that has been asked. Choose your best questions, because I told you the first thing you need to do is to mark the easy questions. When you are marking those easy questions, those are your best questions. And if, for example, the paper has optional questions, maybe sometimes you have, if it's an essay questions, you are given 5 essay questions, and then you are told to answer any 3 out of the 5. So at least of these 5, you can choose the 3 that you can answer effectively. Decide on the question order. You are not supposed, you are not, it's not necessary that you begin answering question 1, you go to question 2, you go to question 3, like that up to question 20. No, you can answer using any order, provided that you are answering the easy questions. You can even start from question 7, you go to question 5, you go to question 10, you come to question 2, you go to question 11, you come to question 1. You can decide to answer using any order that is suiting you. So now let's look at ways you can use to maximize your marks. Because I told you what you need to do inside the exam room is that if it's possible, ensure that you maximize your marks inside an exam room. Because I told you, even personally, when I did my KCPE, I scored 96% in mathematics KCPE. That is exactly the maximization of marks I'm talking about. If it is possible for you to get 90%, get that 90%. Possible for you to get 100%, get that 100%. So let's look at ways in which you can be able to use so that you can be able to maximize your marks. The first thing is, when you read a question, you think about what the question is really asking. When you are reading a question, ask yourself, what is this question really asking? What are you expected to understand in your answer? What material will be relevant? As you have read the question, you have understood. Sometimes you can even narrow your focus and ask yourself, of all the material that I have about this question, which of this material will be relevant? Will I use to answer this question? Another thing you also need to do so that you maximize your marks is what you need to understand is that you realize that the most common complaint from examiners is that the student did not answer the question. That's the complaint from examiners. So maybe the questions were set, the student read the question, did not understand the question, and they ended up answering giving the wrong information. And once you give the wrong information, then you realize that you are penalized, you lose marks, and then you may not be able to do well. Another thing you also need to do is structure your answer. Structure your answer. Think about the basic structure to communicate your ideas. Sometimes if it's an essay, you have the introduction, you have the body, you have the conclusion. And in the body, you now list the points that you can be able to use to discuss that essay. And it is also advisable to make one point or argument per paragraph to summarize how it answers the question. You know, I told you the first thing you need to do when you're answering an essay question is you list the points that you are going to use to answer the question. You list around 10 points that you are going to use to discuss that essay. You list around 10 points. And then once you have listed the 10 points, you discuss 1 point per paragraph. You discuss 1 point per paragraph. You know, some of the students make a mistake. They want to discuss 2 points in a paragraph. If you try to discuss 2 points in a paragraph, it will just be marked as 1 and you get just 1 mark. It will just be marked as 1, even though you are discussing 2 points in 1 paragraph. And then you see you are going to lose a lot of marks because you are discussing 2 points in 1 paragraph and it will just be marked as 1 point. So just, if it is 10 points you are discussing, use 10 paragraphs to discuss the 10 points, and then you can be able now to maximize on your marks. So plan before you write. Take a few minutes to think and make a mini plan. First of all, as you are planning before you write, you underline the keywords in the question. You identify the main topic and discussion areas, the main topic that is being asked, and areas in which you are going to use to discuss by listing the points that you are going to use to discuss. Choose a few points about which you can write. You know, you can have so much to write on a particular question. You can have so much information to provide in a particular question. But you see, they only require a few information. They only require you to provide only a few information. So you can use the best of that information as to use to write to answer that question. Make a mini plan which puts them in order before you start writing. That's what I've said. What to do if your mind goes blank. What to do if your mind goes blank. You see, this is normal. It is normal for every student sometimes they find themselves in a situation where their mind goes blank. And you see, sometimes when the mind of a student goes blank inside an exam room, you find the student makes the situation worse. The student will make the situation worse by panicking, by sweating, getting confused, and everything that revised start evaporating. So we are advising you, there is a way to control your emotions once your mind goes blank. When your mind goes blank, this is what you need to do. You take your pen, you put it on top of the locker. You take your pen, you put it on top of the locker, and then you sit back like this. And then you sit back, and then ideally you should be smiling, and then you start breathing in. Breathe in at least 4 times, breathe in and out at least 4 times, and as you're breathing in and out 4 times, you are trying to relax and allowing blood to flow freely in all the organs and in all the tissues of the body. So once you breathe in 4 times, and then you are now relaxed, you are now very calm, and then the information that had disappeared will come back, and then you can use it to answer the question. If you are in the middle of an answer, sometimes you could be in the middle of answering a question. Sometimes you could be in the middle of answering a question, and then your mind goes blank in the middle of you answering a question. What are you supposed to do? What you simply need to do is you go back to the same answer that you are answering, to the information that you are written in that, the information that you are used to answer. And then you reread the information. You reread your answer. You start reading your answer. And as you are reading your answer, the information will start coming back. The information will start coming back. And then you can continue answering the question. If you are running out of time, don't panic. Inside an exam room, if you find yourself running out of time, you are not supposed to panic. You look at the questions left. You look at the questions left, and then you divide up your remaining time to cover those questions remaining. Like for example, maybe you are in an exam room answering questions in an exam room, and then all of a sudden the invigilator says 10 minutes remaining. 10 minutes remaining. And 10 minutes remaining, and you still have 5 questions to answer. What are you supposed to do? You take the 5 questions and you divide it by the remaining time, which is 10 minutes, and you find that you'll have around 2 minutes to answer each question. You are only left with 2 minutes to answer each question. But sometimes you can't finish. Sometimes you find that with the remaining, maybe it's 5 minutes and you still have 5 questions left. You find that you can't really finish. What you simply need to do is you can write down the points that you would have used to discuss. You write the points that you would have discussed. You just list the points that you have discussed, and then it can earn you some marks, because even the examiner will know this student ran out of time, and it may earn you some marks. What not to write down? You are not supposed to write down inside you are not supposed to write down everything inside an exam room. You are not supposed to write down everything inside an exam room. So there are certain things that you are not supposed to write down inside an exam room. Don't just include something interesting just because you revised it. If it is not relevant to the question, it can lose you marks. Like for example, I'm always advising students. Like for example, maybe this history paper 2, you are doing history paper 2. And then maybe the question again was, discuss the cause of the Second World War. The cause of the Second World War. You are discussing the way the Second World War was progressing from 1939 to 1945. Maybe as you are discussing the cause of that war, you ran out of material, you ran out of answer. And then you start now saying, oh, you are now to write down anything that comes to your mind. And you say, the wife of Adolf Hitler was called Eva Braun. Of course, the wife of Adolf Hitler was called Eva Braun, but it was not part of what was asked in that question. You are now providing information that is not relevant. It can even lose you some marks. Another thing that you are not supposed to write down is, don't say I think or in my opinion. Some of the students, they start answering a question by saying I think, or they start answering a question by saying in my opinion. Remember, nobody is asking you about your opinion. Nobody is asking you about what you think. The examiner is only asking you to provide objectively the answers in a very objective manner. So we don't care what you think, we don't care what is your opinion. So provide answers in a very objective way and avoid these cliches of saying I think, in my opinion. They become so boring. Don't be tempted to write down a note to the examiner explaining that you didn't cover a particular topic. Maybe because of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic. If you are in Form 4, you are at home maybe for 10 months or even 7 months, and then you are tempted now to write a note to the examiner, oh, you see, this topic was not covered because of A, B, C, D. That is not relevant. You are not supposed to write you are not supposed to write a note to the examiner, because it can actually bring a bad picture about you. After the exams, you have finished the first paper and you have the students have gone out. What are you supposed to do after the exams? Be aware of exam post-mortem. Be aware of exam post-mortem. And what is exam post-mortem? Don't discuss with your friends how the exam was. This is another grave mistake most of the students are making. You see, like for example, if it was Maths paper 1, you finish Maths paper 1, the rest of you have gone out, and then you have a group of students who are discussing a particular question. Unapata mwanafunzi mwingine anasema hiyo question 22. Wacha niwaambie, simameni hapa niwaambie. Hiyo question 22, the answer was 50.5. And then another student anasema hapana, mimi nilifanya calculation vizuri, the answer was 51.5. Mwanafunzi mwingine anasema hapana, mimi nilijaribu nikafanya calculation, my answer was 49.5. And you are standing there, you are completely out, your answer was not even nearer to what these other students are discussing. Maybe your answer is South Africa, and you are wondering, what are these people talking about? And you see, you'll be demoralized, you'll be discouraged, and you may not even prepare for the next exam that is coming. So my advice is avoid exam post-mortem. If you are supposed to discuss anything, discuss the paper that is coming. Do not discuss the paper that has been done. Discuss the paper that is coming. In between exams, you know, if it is KCSE, they will give you maybe between one exam and another, there's a duration of around 30 minutes. Maybe the first paper started from 10 to 10:30, and then you are given a break of 30 minutes. What are you supposed to do with these 30 minutes? Of course, you can't use these 30 minutes to revise again. You just use it for morning, you go for mid-break, you can have the mid-break tea, and then you can come back for the next paper. There will be you won't have enough time to revise for the paper that is coming. But if you have around, let's say, 2 hours, then it is sufficient for you to revise for the paper that will be coming. How to answer exam questions. How to answer, this is the last part, how to answer exam questions. How do you answer exam questions? Number 1 is practice on past papers. I think I've been emphasizing on this. Practice on past papers, because I've said most of the questions that you are going to find in KCSE are the same questions in your past papers. The same questions in pre-mocks, in the mocks. The more you expose yourself to these past papers, the more you attempt questions in past papers, the more you get used to the language of the examiner. Number 2 is read all the instructions carefully. No, read all the questions carefully. You know, sometimes the stress of the situation can cause you to misread a question. And once you misread a question, you end up providing information that is not relevant. So what is advisable is read the question carefully and underline the keywords, ensure you've understood the question so that you can be able to proceed and answer the question that has been set. Number 3 is manage your time. Remember, I've told you time is so critical, time is so important inside an exam room. Time is so important inside an exam room. So sometimes it is also important to assign a time limit for each question. If you have 10 questions and you have 2 hours, then you can decide that every question you are going to use 15 minutes for every question. So you are not supposed to go beyond 15 minutes, so that every question will be allocated appropriate amount of time, because every question is carrying a certain amount of marks which you need to get in that example. Structure your answer. I've also talked about structuring your answer. Maybe if it's an essay, you need to have introduction, you need to have the body, you need to have the conclusion, and in the body, that is where the main discussion area is. You list the points that you are going to use to discuss. Number 5 is review your answers thoroughly. Review your answers thoroughly. Once you have completed, once you have finished answering all the questions, and you still have, let's say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can use it now to do what we call proofreading. And in proofreading, you'll be correcting some of the spelling mistakes, some of the tenses mistakes, and sometimes even you can, if there were some blank spaces you had left, you can now provide information in those questions that you had left blank. And you can also draw a quick diagram to enhance a certain explanation somewhere. It can also be able to make you some marks. So thank you very much and be blessed. Thank you very much and be blessed.